Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode here of the DEANO Show. It's great to be back with you all for this week's episode. Got a fun show, got a good show, lots of sports, lots of current event stuff. Maybe not current events, but new hot topics that I posted about on my Instagram story. So this is a new thing for me that I'm starting. If you didn't see my Instagram story, but I'm starting this thing before each episode the following week. I'm going to be posting on my Instagram story any hot topics, any just random questions. You want my opinion on it. It could be the most simple things or it could be more complex. I'm open for advice. I'm open for opinions. I want to kind of get more into this, get more into it with you guys, see where it takes me, build more of an audience that way. So every week before I post, every Thursday, the DEANO Show, usually maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe even Monday, I'll put out on my Instagram story. I'm taking hot topics, taking opinions on certain topics, and even if you guys want to come on the show and have a debate about it, we could definitely do that. I think that would be really, really fun to do. Maybe even live stream it, who knows? But we're starting that up, so this is the first week, and I got a couple DMs, got a couple topics, which we'll get into later in the show. I'm going to do it towards the end of the show and just do my regular topics, and then at the end of the show, do the more you guys questions, my opinion on those, and kind of see where it goes and just have fun with it. Because at the end of the day, that's all we're doing. We're just having fun. We're living life. We're doing what feels right to me. And that's all you can really do in this life is do what feels right to you. But our first topic of the day for the DEANO Show, talk about U.S. Open. We're talking about golf. We're talking about Wyndham Clark, who, in my eyes, is honestly, I respect Wyndham so much. And so many people go after Wyndham for his kind of psycho behavior, raging out on the golf course. Obviously what happened last year at the US Open at Oakmont, where he just played terrible golf. The golf course just kind of kicked the shit out of him. He ended up beating a locker and destroying a locker, which ultimately he was banned from Oakmont. And he got tons and tons and tons of hate, tons of, this guy has no class, what an asshole, why would you ever do something like this? And to some extent, yes, I do agree. You shouldn't really damage the property and completely break stuff in the clubhouse. Agree. I think we all can agree to that. But my opinion and my kind of problem with all the hate that he got along the way was, look, the PGA Tour is, 120 players, and each week, especially in the majors, they're competing for hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions and millions of dollars. And it's their job to play good golf and to make money. Like, at the end of the day, we work desk jobs, we do whatever jobs, but this is their job. Like, they do this to live and survive. Yes, they make a boatload of money if you are successful, 100%. But I think if the average person, and if you were competing for hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, you would have a similar reaction. That you completely shit the bed, you missed the cut. In fact, you ended up losing money because when you do go to a golf tournament, major or non-major, you have to pay for your flight, you have to pay for your hotel, pay for your Airbnb, wherever it is, and that all costs money. I think Matthew Fitzpatrick talked about it in an interview a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago. I briefly saw it, but I don't exactly remember what he said, but he was talking about how when you miss cuts, you are losing close to $100,000 depending on the tournament, depending how long you're staying. And I feel like the average golf fan, especially Twitter golf fans are the worst golf fans to ever exist, and I'll get into more of that later, but people are so quick to make opinions, and because of something does something wrong or something they don't agree with, they immediately go after them, go after their family, go after everything about them as a person. I completely hate this person. And not even just in the golf world, just in life in general. When you kind of go against the grain and stand up for something you believe in or have a moment, everyone is going to be naysaying in you. And like I've said before, people that are doing better than you or people that are better at something of your craft, they're never going to criticize you. It's always the people who have never stepped foot into the arena, never stepped foot and took a chance and built something that are always going to be chirping from the sidelines. That's just how life is. That's just how life goes. But he obviously had a shitty last U.S. Open. He won the U.S. Open in 23 at LA Country Club, which was another amazing win. And look, I think he was just really mad, and he beat a locker. But he obviously struggles with anger, and there's many clips of him throwing a driver on the golf course, lashing out, swearing on the golf course, hitting bad shots, kind of being like really fiery out on the golf course when traditionally golf is one of those sports that's very like even-keeled, like no lashing out, no swearing, no smashing clubs. It's all kind of frowned upon. And to see a player like Wyndham, who's kind of the total opposite of that, who throws clubs, swears, is kind of that fiery player, which I honestly think is good for the PGA Tour. You kind of need some of those personalities because in some ways, yeah, golf is boring. If there's no really, like, they're just kind of hitting golf shots and making it look really easy, and they're all very good. So it's kind of boring to see. So to see a player that really shows his emotion and really shows like how much he actually cares and how much this actually means to him, I don't want to say it's kind of good for the sport, but in some ways it kind of is good for the sport because it attracts new viewership. It kind of brings the fire to golf, which traditionally, like I said, been a sport of such class and such precision and whatnot. So to see him win this past U.S. Open after everything he's been to, after seeing a sports psychologist to control his anger, to control his emotions out on the golf course, was really, really cool. And I was rooting for the guy. He's had a really last couple weeks, he's been really playing some really damn good golf. So to see him come out on top, especially at Shinnecock, at a course that's so grueling and one of the hardest courses really, and it's just really cool to see a player like Wyndham come out on the other side, battle his own adversity out on the golf course and off the golf course. To see him come through, win his second U.S. Open, couldn't be more proud of the guy. And another thing that was kind of crazy was, yes, Scotty was competing for the Grand Slam. If you don't know what the Grand Slam is, it's winning all 4 majors: the Masters, U.S. Open, PGA Championship, and the Open out in overseas. But I only think a couple of players have done it, and I don't remember all the players, but Tiger, Rory just recently completed his Grand Slam last year at the Masters. I don't remember the other players. I want to say Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, and I want to say there's 5, but I'm not going to get the 5th. I hope I'm right on those 4 at least. But Scotty had a chance to win the Grand Slam, win the U.S. Open. That's the only major he has not won, on Father's Day, on his birthday. And Wyndham kind of had control of the kind of U.S. Open really since Thursday night. He had a pretty big lead. And yes, you know, it's pretty hard to blow 7 shots on a PGA Tour. It's definitely happened many times before. We've seen it happen. We saw Rory back at his first Masters when he completely blew up. So it like, you know, going into Sunday watching it, I was rooting for Wyndham, especially because so many of the players during the Sunday of the U.S. Open were kind of booing against him. Like, they wanted him to lose. They were rooting against him. You could hear when the ball was kind of getting close to the green or might roll off, players were kind of cheering for the ball to roll off to the green. And, you know, the Scotty glazing, and look, I love Scotty. He's a great player, great guy overall, but it's the casual golf fans who are just all about, like, Scheffler and Scotty and go Scotty. Like, it's just, all right, dude, like, he's won so many times, and it'd be cool to see another player who has been through some shit on and off the golf course win another major. So I'm really happy that Wyndham ended up winning it. Mom died when he was, I think, in college, and one thing his mom always told him to do was go out and play big, and just, you're going to do great things and just play big. And I think, you know, we all can take advice from that, is go out in the world and play big, do the big things. Like, that's great advice. Go out and play big. If the average golf fan, like I said in the beginning of this, was out there competing for hundreds of thousands of dollars, like your life depended on it, I think you'd show a little more emotion and, you know, every now and then let the anger win. So good all for Wyndham. So that's kind of the covering the golf section of today's episode. And I saw this over the weekend. Pretty sad story, honestly. You just hate to see someone who was such a legend in the UFC world. Dustin Poirier had a bit of an altercation at an airport. I think he was kicked off his plane. I'm sure some of you guys have saw the clip. But it looked like in the video he was kicked off his plane, probably due to some intoxication. The first officer approached him. He was like, "Hey, are you Dustin Poirier?" And he was like, "Fuck, I am." Like, "Fuck you, bro." And was like, let's fight. And look, man, that's a man who was, his whole life, his whole identity was being a fighter. And that was what he did, and that's what he lived, that's what he slept, he breathed, he was fighting, he was always training, that was his whole persona about being a UFC fighter. And you see this not only with Dustin Poirier, but a bunch of professional athletes who have their whole life be so sports focused from the time they were born, you know, into their young childhood, all the way up if they make it to a professional career. Sports and competing and being an athlete, training in the off season, that's all they know. That's their entire life. When you retire or you get injured and you can no longer play the sport anymore and you're 35 years old, 40 years old, and all you've known is, in this instance, fighting, when that's taken away from you, you have a realization of, like, what the fuck do I do with my life? Like, who am I? I'm just going to say my entire 40 years of my life, I've been a fighter. And that's been my whole identity. That's who I am. That's what I've done. And now that that's gone, I don't really know who I am. You know, Dustin has a family, he has kids, so he's obviously a dad, and that's a great thing for him. But in this case, it looks like he went to alcohol as to some coping mechanism or some way to kind of settle that unbalanced lifestyle of not being a fighter anymore and trying to wrestle with his identity ultimately. And that's kind of the tough thing about sports. And, you know, you look at a player like Tom Brady, who was the greatest football player of all time, won obviously 7 Super Bowls. Sports or football was his total identity, and then he stopped, eventually came back because he missed it so much and wanted to keep on playing, but ultimately aged right now, and now he's a broadcaster. So at least he's involved in the sport. He has a job. Not that Dustin's doing anything wrong or anything, but, you know, it's just that idea that you're so used to something in your life, and in the flip of a switch, it's just gone away from you. And it's the first time in your whole life where you look around and it's like, wow, what do I do with myself? Who am I? Like, what? I've never had this emotion, yet you're 45 years old. It's a sad reality, and it's definitely a thing. I can see why players struggle with it and why they get to a point in their life where it's, who am I? Because all they've known is sports, and there's no really way to go from there, or how do you just got to start trying things. Like, I don't know. I don't know. But definitely in this case, don't go to substances. Don't go to alcohol. But yeah, it's a sad story. He did post something on his Instagram story that he was wrestling with himself. He's trying to come back. He's going to be better. So, look, he's obviously aware of the situation that he got himself in. I don't think this is going to be like a big problem for him. But it was definitely one of those stories. And like, I like Dustin. He's a Warrior, USA guy, family man. What else can you not like about the guy? Obviously, big winner on the UFC. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, you hate to see that. You hate to see a player who's so well respected in the fighting world and just in the sports world in general struggle with the public eye and identity. And, you know, that's ultimately what he's kind of wrestling with, his identity. Yeah, thought I'd cover that story for you guys. The next story we got, which has just all been going on since a couple weeks ago with the World Cup. World Cup has been amazing. Haven't watched this much soccer in my life in so long, but I love the World Cup. You know, I wish, and I mentioned it to my dad last night. I didn't even like think about this, but all of like the big time games, or the France, the Portugals, all those games are in the middle of the day. And I was like, Dad, it's kind of annoying that they don't have any like of the big prime time Portugal or France or Brazil or any of the big games going on later in the night. And he was like, yeah, well, they have to be on for the fans over in Europe. And I was like, oh yeah, wow, that makes total sense. So it's definitely all strategically planned, but I do wish, like, you know, as we get later on into the group stages and past those, we'll get bigger games later in the day, not at 12 o'clock on a Monday. So, but yeah, dude, the fans and everything of the World Cup is totally amazing. The Scots are now down in Miami, and they're probably going to be all sunburnt because all they're used to in Scotland is rainy, cold, not a lot of sun, pasty skin. Like, it's great. And obviously, like I mentioned in last week's show, they took over Boston and was literally killing bars with how much beer they were drinking. But they're now down in Miami. Unfortunately, they lost to Brazil last night. I saw they're putting cones on statues, which ultimately led to some police interactions because you just can't be doing that. But these Norwegian fans are the best fans. And I don't really know the whole story between the whole like rowing thing, but it's like amazing. I was watching the Mets day game yesterday, and they had a whole section. The whole Norwegian fans were all out in the outfield, out in like right field. There was, I don't know, I'm going to say 100 Norwegian fans out there watching the Mets game. And Mets fans, everyone in that section were all doing this row the boat or whatever it is, or like row the ship. It's so cool. It is like just what makes sports so amazing, and just brings, like I always say, brings people together in so many different ways. All these Japanese fans who were down in Texas, they were all trying barbecue for the first time. They were talking about how everything is so big, how they're all excited. It's just really cool what the World Cup does and how it's just soccer at the end of the day. I saw a video of the Japan fans after their game in Dallas. They were all handpicking their trash in the stadium. They all had like plastic bags. I think there was like 20 of them. And they literally were picking up garbage from where they were seating in. And that just sums up kind of Japan's culture to begin with. One of the cleanest cities in the world. I think like even if you're like spitting out gum, you could like get in trouble over there. Like it's crazy well sophisticated and very neat and organized and actually like follows the law. And you look at us Americans who are just complete litter kings. All we do is litter. Our cities are a mess. We have cigarettes all over the place, gum all over the place. It's just, you compare Japan City to New York City, for example, the cleanliness is complete opposite sides of the spectrum, but that just goes to show the different cultures and what it does. And even, you know, when a country like Japan comes to the States for the first time, no one's telling them to clean up their garbage. That's something they're totally doing on their own, out of their own, because that's just what they're used to. And that's really cool, really special to see that. As we kind of advance later on into this World Cup, and a lot of hate that Ronaldo's been getting because of the first couple of games he hasn't really scored. Messi's obviously now the all-time World Cup leading scorer. That guy's unbelievable, one. Mbappe's showing out, Vini's showing out for Brazil, and everyone's kind of been talking about Ronaldo. I mean, Harry Kane was scoring. Ronaldo hadn't really scored or so. Like, what's going on with Portugal? And then the other day against Uzbekistan, he scored the first goal. And then their like free kick that they did where Nuno Mendes scored, where everyone, I mean, of course, I was watching it and I was like, yeah, Ronaldo's definitely taking this free kick. Nuno Mendes, and that was honestly very high IQ play to shoot the ball because everyone, like I said, everyone was expecting Ronaldo. Highest moment, of course, one of the best free kicks shooters of all time. He's definitely taken it. Completely fooled the entire Uzbekistan team, even the goalie. The goalie didn't really have time to react, so Ronaldo ended up scoring later in the game. But it's cool to see him getting involved. If there is a world where the USA does get eliminated from the World Cup, I'm rooting for Ronaldo because it would just make the Messi-Ronaldo debate that much more spicy, that much more, I don't know, now that they both have a World Cup, they're kind of going head-to-head. I think Messi would still be better. I don't know the total, like, who has more Champions League, who has more Golden Boots. I don't know all those off the top of my head, and that's something I'd have to look up. But if Ronaldo did win a World Cup, I definitely think it would make things interesting with who is the best of all time. So if Portugal, or if the USA does get eliminated, I'm rooting for Portugal to see them make a big run. And I saw something about like Messi's path to the semifinals or to the World Cup finals versus Ronaldo's path. I think Messi would have been playing, I don't know, kind of random teams, and Ronaldo would have had to play like Spain, France, a couple other things. I don't know if that's actually true or not. I don't know the exact seeding of the World Cup and what happens if Portugal or Argentina both exist or advance. So I'm on the Ronaldo ship right now. I'm rooting for Ronaldo. I hope they come together. Obviously, the USA are still in it, so I'm rooting for USA. They got a big match tonight against Turkey. I don't know if that's like the correct pronunciation. We just say Turkey, but I think it's like Turkey or I don't know, but Turkey, no idea. But big one tonight against Turkey. Should be a game that we come back and just kind of go 3-0. I think we'd be, I know France is 2-0. This would make us 3-0, and I'm sure there's other teams who would also be 3-0. But Pulisic's coming back into the lineup, in which maybe he only plays for a half, because I don't really think Turkey's going to be that much of a competitive. I mean, the way we've been playing, we could be winning this game 4-0, 5-0 or something. So if I'm the coach, if I'm the manager, Pulisic's getting a half. He's coming back. He's resting. No need, especially if we're winning, no need for him to be in the game. And I'm sure the manager's thinking about that. I'm sure they've already talked about that. I'm just a kid with a mic and a podcast, but I'm not really know much about soccer, but I'm sure that has already been discussed, that if they get an early lead, if they're up 2 or 3-0, Pulisic's coming out of the game. Even their top guy should come out of the game. Doesn't really make sense to, go full balls to the wall against Turkey when at this point in time you're already advancing on to the next stage. But the World Cup, man, best sporting event by far. And now we're going to talk about my miserable New York Mets. Mendoza's got to be fired. As simple as that. I don't know why he still has a job or even how he still has a job. This team is so bad. Like, it's just utterly embarrassing. I was watching the Mets last night against the Cubs. They had 6 defensive errors, 2 of them by a 2-time Gold Glover and Marcus Semien. Lindor in his first play back bobbled the ground ball right to him. First game back after missing 55 games, okay, fine. I'll, give you the benefit of the doubt. That's a play you should make 100 out of 100 times. I'll give him a break. Semien, not giving him a break. Mentor and Vientos throw to first base, another error. Bench dropped the ball in right field. Like, it's just embarrassing. It really is just embarrassing how bad this team. They're not even being competitive. There's no pitching to back up the hitting, and it's one of those cases where, as a player right now in the Mets, you're thinking our pitching isn't really all that strong. So now we have to put up a lot of runs. You're swinging out of your shoes. You're trying to do things. You're trying to get the grand slam when all you need is a base hit. All you're thinking about is just runs, runs, runs. That puts more pressure on the pitcher. And then the same goes for vice versa, where if the hitting isn't going well, the pitcher's thinking to himself, well, I have to go 7 innings pitch. I can barely give up a run. That puts more pressure on the pitcher, and, worlds just collide. It's just messy time to be a New York Mets fan. Obviously battling a lot of injuries. Not excuses, but something has to change within the organization. I don't know if that means Stearns get fired. I don't know if that means Mendoza gets fired, which I think he should be, but it's officially rock bottom. We're, I think, 81 games or 82 games through halfway done through the season. And it's just bad. It's just terrible baseball. It just is the inconsistency of having a good series. I'm going to use the Atlanta again as an example. You take 2 out of 3 from Atlanta. You go to Cincinnati, in the first 2 games, you put up 2 runs. Like, how is that possible? How is that possible? Against the Cubs, Dansby Swanson, their number 9 hitter, has 15 RBIs in 3 games. He was batting 190. He's now batting like 200, which is still terrible. But you're giving up 15 RBIs to their number 9 hitter. Granted, Dansby Swanson is an all-time shortstop and a very good hitter, but we're making this guy look like he's Barry Bonds. Like, it's just remarkable how bad this New York Mets team has been. I officially think it's time to throw in the towel. Time to reevaluate for next year. I don't think we're going to do anything at the trade deadline. Kodai Senga, complete garbage. He pitched, I think, game 1 against the Cubs. Had a great first inning. His fastball was 98, 99. Second inning, gave up 2 walks, maybe even 3 walks, and then within the blink of an eye, it was 5-0, and the Mets were already out of the game. And that's another thing, is like our pitching puts us in such deep holes to begin games. When our pitchers can't put up zeros the first 3 innings of the game and we're already behind 5 runs, the game is almost already over at that point, especially with this team versus the OMG 2023 season Mets. Like, those Mets were never out of it. We're never out of it. But with this team, if we're down like 2-0 in the second inning, I'm like, this game's done. They just haven't proven to me that they can come back or, have the grit to even come back or even show fight. It's just bad. As especially in a team like New York, one of the biggest markets in baseball, the highest payroll in baseball, and you're 12 games under 500. I just make it make sense. It really, it just makes 0 sense to me. It's sad. It sucks to see a team, one of my favorite teams, just be so not competitive out there. But I think Mendoza should have been fired. He definitely should be fired at this point. And Stearns and Mendoza, they all say the same things after the game. It's like, we got to be better. We got to take better pitches. We got to string better at bats together. Like, there's so many things you can really say when at the end of the day, you just got to be like, our team's playing like shit. Like, just face it. And David Stern's whole thing is run prevention. Well, we gave up 6 errors last night in the infield. That's not much about run prevention. How about scoring runs? Why not focus so much on run prevention and let's focus on scoring runs and winning games and hitting home runs? I don't know why we're like defense first when the goal of the game is to put up as many runs as possible, especially with a team. Why, like, if we were putting up 10 runs and then 10 runs a game and then we would always give up 8 runs, our run prevention wasn't there, yeah, sure, then you can have the run prevention talk. But why are we talking about run prevention when we can't even put up 3 runs in 9 innings? It just makes 0 sense to me, and it sucks because when the Mets are playing well, it's really fun. It's really fun to watch, but I just wish they were competitive. It's just so bad. It's just embarrassing. You're a professional athlete. What's going on here? I don't even know what to say about it. The New York Mets. Nope, not cutting it. Not cutting it. So yeah, that's the new nickname for the New York Mets. The miserable Mets, because are just miserable out there on the field. 6 errors in 1 game. 6 errors. It's bad. Bad. All right, now we're getting into the new section of the DEANO show. We're gonna call it the Q&A section. Not gonna be the long time name, which is all I got right now. I'm gonna come up with something more creative. I don't know, just a better name than Q&A. Q&A is kind of basic, kind of boring, but I'm excited for this. This could be a new little fun thing we do. Who knows? Maybe even I start like live streaming these and we do like rapid fire, quick 3-minute hot topic debate on whatever the topic is. All right, so the first one I got was best first date ideas and what to do on a first date. I am a firm believer in first date should be something casual, should be something chill. I do not think you should go to dinner or go to drinks on a first date. I think it brings too many variables into the equation that don't need to be there for a first date, especially because you're getting to know a person for a first time and you're trying to figure out what restaurant to eat, what food she likes, where to go. Like, there's a lot of complications into what you got to wear. You know, there's too many, in my eyes, there's too many variables that don't have to be there. I'm just creating unnecessary variables. My first date at best idea is go get a coffee, go for a walk, go get a smoothie, go for a walk. Keep it something very chill, very simple. That way you don't have to worry about what you have to wear, where we're going. If she's gluten-free, do they have gluten-free stuff? Like, you know, it brings in a lot of complications when you go to a type of restaurant and what food she likes. You know, they're not bad, but personally, I think think about it this way. If I'm going to have a bad first date, I'd rather have it be when I went for a walk with a girl and only spent $30 than I spend $150 on a girl and never see again. I'll feel like an idiot if I go to the dinner and why did I waste all that money when we could have gone for a walk? Like, you know, you got to think of if this goes bad, what's the best case scenario that I'll be happy with had it gone bad? My answer, coffee, go for a walk. I do think the city you live in also depends on that question. If you were in San Diego, go watch a sunset, go get a coffee, go get a smoothie, go get something quick, then go watch a sunset. Great idea, great first date. If you're in New York, yes, harder. You're in the concrete jungle, then I would say go for a walk in Central Park. Do things small like that, you know, so there's ways around it. I do think in New York in particular, any really big city like Chicago or Dallas, where there's not much to do outside of the city besides dinner and drinks, it gets a little trickier. But any first date should be casual. You're just getting to know each other for the first time. No need to add the added pressure of what restaurant to go to. Will she like the food? What do you got to wear? All that fun stuff. You can, you know, if the first date does go well, then that makes dinner and drinks that much more fun. So that's my take on that. The second one I got was going out versus staying in. This one's tricky. I think a lot of it depends on the people you are with. I believe it's the people that make going out fun, not the location. And it also depends on your week. Whether you had a long work week, quick work week, you're looking forward to the weekend, you're not looking forward to the weekend. A lot of variables go into that. But I do think going out is fun. I think the best nights of going out is when you get a dinner with your friends, have a great meal, good drinks, and then go out versus just going right out into a bar. Yes, not all the time can you just go to dinner and then go out. That's got to be more of a planned, strategic plan. But again, the spontaneity of just going out, especially going out with people you normally don't go out with. There's something about being in a bar with everyone you know that gets pretty repetitive, especially after weekend, going to the same place, same people. Like, that gets kind of boring. Definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Going out with strangers, going to new bars, meeting new people is what makes going out fun. So if you are going out, do more of that. It makes your night better. And just roll with anyone, man. That's like the beauty of life, is meeting strangers. So going out is a lot of fun, but then again, in the winter time and when it's cold out, I'm more inclined to watch a good movie on a Friday night than I am to go shiver my ass off outside of the streets and wherever I am at that point in time. But going out's fun, it is. And sometimes you got to pay the price for it the next day, which is not fun, but that's what makes it special. And it's a fun time to be going out with your good friends and having some laughs, sharing some drinks. Does not beat it. But then, again, a great movie with good friends on a great, comfortable couch. That is also fantastic. So pick your poison. Depends on the week, depends on the night. But I'm happy to do both. Just depends on the time of the year and what I'm doing that week or what I'm feeling that day. So that's pretty much all I got for you guys in this week of the DEANO Show. Really looking forward to this new topic I'm trying here at the end of the show, where we are going to be adding in random questions, something similar as going out or staying in, or best first date ideas. So it's something quick, something easy. Doesn't have to be too serious. It can be serious if you want it to. And I'll be posting it on my Instagram story for next week. So come up with some new topics. Be on the lookout for that. And that's all I got for this week's episode of the DEANO Show. And I will see you guys in next week's episode. Peace out.